video. You might hear my son in the background. Please ignore that. I am sick, so I look like hell. Trust me, I'm fine. We're continuing on the series of my haunted houses since it's easy since I'm sick. And I'm just trying to run through this so I don't have to edit too much, get it out in time for you guys, and still finish my housework. So where we left off, if you haven't watched that video already, please do. I'll probably have like a little card or something, or maybe I'll link it in the description. Where we left off was, there was the shadow man in the bathroom, the thing I seen in the basement, what my mom's seen. But there's so much more to just that one house. Just that one house had so much activity, and it doesn't even compare to the other houses. So, as you guys know, I see spirits, but at this time, I was not exclusively open to them, so it was through mirrors mostly. There was an instance, as you guys know, I've had a hard relationship with my family. It's very toxic, very abusive, so there might be some sensitive topics, including this. When I would get overstimulated and overwhelmed, there were many different things that they would do, like handcuffing me to a railing and stuff like that. This instance was no different. I was, pushed into our broom closet. If you want to know how big the broom closet is, it's probably about like 3 feet inward and 2 feet wide. And it wasn't very tall either. So it was just a normal little broom closet. But they pushed me in there and were holding the door shut. Now, me being scared, I was screaming and crying and like begging them to let me out, but I had little hope that they would, until I felt something grab my hair and yank it back. Not like my hair got caught on something and it yanked, and I was like yanking it forward. No, something grabbed my hair and yanked my head back. And I screamed so loud, I think the neighbors freaking heard me. And I was in so much fucking fear that they had to open it because I was probably gonna get the cops called. And they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why were you yelling and screaming? I'm like, something yanked my fucking hair. And of course nobody believed me. They were like, you just got your hair caught on the broom. And obviously not much was done about that. But I hated dark spaces. I hate the dark now. And it was awful because I could have sworn I heard something behind me before that yank. Like, aftermath of it, I was like, did I hear something behind me? It literally sounded like some sort of breathing. I can't even explain it, but I stayed away from that broom closet, and I didn't like the dark ever since. I hated it. And I used to be someone that would just run around in the dark. I would be fine. But I didn't like it. I hated it. And, it was just kind of a thing in the back of my mind after a while. So shortly after that, I want to say there was an instance where I was in the bathroom downstairs, and I was, taking a shower, and little me, my mom would come in to check in every so often. Well, this one instance, I thought she came in. She didn't. The door opened and shut. There was rustling with the shower curtain. And I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, she's watching me shower. When I turned around after I was done, there was nobody there. The shower curtain was kind of open, but nobody there. And I was pretty young. So I guess I just didn't think much of it. And then when I went out of the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, there was this creepiest face I've ever seen. And I haven't talked about this on my TikTok yet, because it still scares me. It was like somebody burnt. Like, you could see the person, but they were definitely not there. So I screamed, I ran out the bathroom, which it kind of struggled to open a little bit. I'm not sure if that door had problems, but in that moment it took a second to open, and I ran to my mom in the kitchen. Wasn't even dressed yet. I was in my towel and just telling her to go look in the bathroom. There was nothing there. I didn't even see it in the mirror after that. And that was the only time I seen that thing. And honestly, I think they thought I was going crazy or I was just making things up for attention, which they tend to do. So there were many other instances in that house. If you want to hear more, just let me know. I would just have to think about them because obviously right now I'm sick and I didn't compile these beforehand. I'm just going based off of my memory. Nextly, the next house we lived in was an apartment, and there wasn't really much going on there except for, like the footsteps, noises. We didn't live there long enough to really experience anything if there was a haunting there. But it started to lead me to believe that it was something against our family when we moved in with my grandparents. Now, living at my grandparents' house, that's a whole other mayhem. We've been there for years. And we also, in between, I believe, lived with my sister. And not much really happened there, aside from me having a bunch of random bruises I couldn't explain. Like deep, dark bruises on my hips that I didn't even notice were there and didn't hurt until I noticed them. Things like that. Like, I can't really explain it. So when we moved in with my grandparents, I was upstairs with my sisters in one room. And our closet would randomly pop open all the time. And they said that there was just something wrong with the closet, but it would shut perfectly fine. It just randomly turned and opened all the time. And I was scared. I'm like, I'm gonna, a demon. Like, I was trying to make fun out of it, but it was a lot. So that kept on happening, and eventually my sisters and I would fight about it a lot, and we would fight about random other things, and they would be on me about every little thing. Until, me and my sister started getting actual fistfights. My mom moved me down to the basement. Of course, left the other two upstairs with the Xbox, which was the only thing that I liked to play, and now I couldn't play it. But that's beside the point. Brought me downstairs to the basement, had my bed down there, and they got their own little room to themselves. So I was left in the basement with my mom and my two brothers. And my other brother lived in the other open room upstairs, and so did my grandparents lived in the master bedroom. So when you walk down the basement stairs, there would be my one brother, then a little gap, and then the other bed, there's my other brother. There was a dresser that divided us, so it gave me and my mom privacy on the other side. It would be my bed, and then my mom's bed next to me. And it was in the basement. There was a door to outside. There was a window. It was fine. And there was a fridge down there, too, so. But, I was really bad, having really bad insomnia around this time, where I would stay up for 4 days straight, sleep for 2 hours, and I ended up getting really sick because of that. And when I would sleep, I was getting sleep paralysis episodes and so many different things. But the one story that has stuck with me with all of this, which I have told, was the start to a haunting. And this is when I really thought a lot of the instances that I have had experienced before were tied to our family. I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and I came out, and I felt a breathing behind me, and it just sent a shiver down my spine. There was nothing behind me, so I bolted all the way downstairs to the basement, woke up my mother, screaming, crying, like, upset. She calmed me down. I told her what happened, and then she just was like, okay, it was probably just your imagination. You haven't slept in a couple days. So I was like, okay. She told me to go wake up my brother, and I went to go do that because his alarm was going off for work. I turned, and right next to his bed, looming over, was a very tall shadow figure, what I thought was a shadow figure, that was looming over his bed. It scared me to the point where I literally was like, fuck that, he can deal with it. And my mom was like, what the fuck do you mean? And I told her what it was. It was like 6-7 feet tall because it was looming, and it was hunched over. It was skinny, lanky, and just scary. She believed me because before then, her and my brother had seen the same thing in the same exact spot. But my family was about, don't talk about it or it makes it worse. Not talking about it made the fear worse. They misconstrued talking about it with fear. There is a difference. So, I was scared by that. And around the surrounding time of that, I was having sleep paralysis where things were at the end of my bed. And one night when it happened and I couldn't move, I tried my little trick where I just focused on my fingertips and my toes. But when I looked down at the end of my bed, there was something on my bed. It was a weird shadowy figure, and it wasn't that one that I seen before, but it scared me so bad. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And there were many, many instances. And my mom had another instance where she thought she saw me at the foot of her bed in that basement. Because it was right at the end of her bed. Something was like hunching around looking at her. And she was like, go to bed, thinking it's me. But I was asleep in the bed next to her. Because I was having trouble sleeping in my own bed. So she didn't sleep that night. And there were many, many instances. And I believe it just followed our family. I don't know who else really had many experiences in that house. I just know I've had many. And I tried making Ouija boards. And it didn't really work. Because it was all paper. But it didn't work. But I think it made it worse. I was starting to get bruises. I was starting to get so many different things. I had really bad depression and anxiety, and it was absolutely awful. And around this time, we stopped seeing my dad. And I couldn't have been happier, honestly, about that, but it definitely made a hole where I thought maybe some things would change. Nothing would change, and whatever was around was definitely feeding on that. And now, there were other instances where the TV in the living room upstairs would randomly turn on and off. And we thought it was, somebody who had passed in our family that we were really close to. That was a father figure to me. And honestly, that has never been denied or confirmed. But there were a lot of instances, a lot of different things for many years of just the same repeated sleep paralysis, seeing things, little weird instances of the basement door opening and slamming shut. Cabinets in that house were all open completely. And because I have autism and I seem to be more dramatic, but I was in so much fear that it looked dramatic to anybody who wouldn't believe that actually happened. But me looking and seeing everything open, I was scared. And I was like, what happened? But apparently they like to dramatize it and be like, she's like, what happened? But no, I truly was scared and I was in shock. So there's things like that they like to blame on me. I swear either one of them did it or something else did it and they just needed me as a scapegoat. So, yeah, I was scared about that, but it seemed like whatever was around decided to target me, given the fact of they all did. They all targeted me. I was the most vulnerable. And it was awful. It was very, very awful. So when my stepdad came into the picture and we moved in with him, I thought that maybe it would lessen, but it didn't. I became the target to more hurtful and awful things. The only people around that time that made me feel any sense of normal, my stepbrother and I fought a lot, but he made me feel normal. Like I was responsible for my actions and I wasn't just the autistic one, and so did my stepsister. My stepsister was fucking awesome. She treated me normally and she just, her and I got along. We fought like siblings, we made up like siblings, and it was the most amount of family I felt. And then things started to shift. The bruises started happening again, and it got me scared. And then more instances started happening where I was seeing things in mirrors in the corner. So, like, me and my stepsister were watching The Conjuring, which we watched a lot. We would repeatedly watch it and make fun of it and have fun. And I looked in the mirror, and this is how I knew it wasn't crazy. We saw a shadow in the dining room because the mirror where I was looking at it, you could see the dining room. There was a shadow, but when we looked over, there was no shadow there. But we would look in the mirror, it was there. We looked over, no shadow. And it was this craziest thing ever, but I felt so validated because she saw it too. And so that basement also freaked me out. It was just like cold, cramped, small. It just freaked me out. I didn't like it. Not so much of feeling like something was there. It was just, it freaked me out. And then the worst happened. So when I was 16, about to be 17, my stepsister passed away by her own hand. And it was awful. I was already depressed. I had a lot going on because when I was about 14 or 15, I had my last attempt. And that one was my closest one to being in the same situation. And so she helped me through that. She helped me pull through it and made me feel validated and understood, but understand what the weight of that would have been. And it was a really dark time around that time for me, and it was like, no matter how happy I wanted to be, I couldn't be. And so when she passed away, it just all came rushing back, that same feeling of darkness everywhere. And I felt like I could see things and spirits and stuff like that, and it was like certain times where I wanted to see something, I would. So I just kind of tried to open myself up completely to seeing her. But opening myself up completely meant I was seeing everything else. I didn't see her for the first little while. There were some instances where I did, but they were short and brief. But I also saw other things. The one night where I had seen something in my corner of my room. I was watching a Sam and Colby video. It was a funny video, nothing scary. And I was about 17. And there was a shift in the room. I felt it. And it got hotter. And my room was always freezing cold for some reason. No matter what they did, it was always freezing cold. So when it got hotter, it felt weird. I paused my video and I turned over. I don't know why I decided to look over there, but I did. And there was something scary, creepy. I think it had gray eyes in this instance. A weirdly shaped head. It was smiling. Like a weird ear-to-ear smile if it had ears. And it was just dark silhouette. It was terribly scary. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I managed to knock myself off my chair with a very loud thud. Nobody downstairs really thought anything of it. And I was like trying to scream. I couldn't scream, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. Because around that time I was having a lot of trouble with my Tourette's. And it would cause my body to lock up. Now, my Tourette's isn't usually constant. My autism and my anxiety brings it up more. But it made my whole body lock up. And I remember it moving closer to me and closer, and I managed to somehow move my hand to call my mother and choke out that I needed her. And she played it off. But I was having an active panic attack. I was hyperventilating because I could barely breathe. When she finally came up and saw me with my hand, literally felt like it was breaking itself. Because for some reason it would do something like this. I can't even replicate it. It would either be like this or something. And the other one, I don't understand how to describe it to you. I can show you with the only video I have of when this has happened. But it was very awful and scary. And it was very painful. But when I was able to move my head from it ticking off to the side a lot, it was gone. But that wasn't the end of it. I seen so many more things, and I felt absolutely insane and like I was going crazy. I felt like I was absolutely crazy. The doctor said I was fine, and I didn't know what to make of any of it. But that's all I'm going to tell you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Like, subscribe, comment if you want to hear more, and what else you want to see once I get to feeling better. I love you guys so very much. Bye.